Republican system is absolutely rigged. It's a phony deal. Now, what do I know? I started running like 9 months ago. Who would have thought I would have been in first place? What do I know? Right? What do I know? But I'm in first place by a lot.
Donald Trump in Rome, New York, earlier this week, repeating the observation he made that we heard via videotape earlier in this program, calling the Republican nomination system rigged. And of course, before the break, we heard those allegations from Cook County, Illinois, where some Republican committeemen were dismissed for supporting Donald Trump. Could the system really be rigged? Let's discuss it now with our panel of Washington journalists. Skyping in from our nation's capital, political reporter for The Hill, Cate Martel, and from Newsmax Washington, White House correspondent for the National Journal, Shirish Date. We appreciate your time here tonight on Newsmax Prime. And Cate, we just had delegates from Chicago who say there's some funny business going on. Now we had the outgoing chairman. He says, no, they're just trying to root out some deceptive Democrats. Your take on what is going on in Chicago, Colorado, and elsewhere. Are there concerns about the Republican nomination process, and are they legitimate?
So, JD, I think the fact that Donald Trump is calling it rigged is probably a strong statement. But I think he does tap into two interesting ideas. Number one, that we're coming down to as the delegates decide how hundreds and thousands of voters feel about the candidates, and they're picking their candidates. But then we have other delegates who are unbound and get to pick a candidate who their voice technically counts just as much as thousands of voters. And I think if you take that one step further, we go to the Electoral College, and technically the electors in the Electoral College aren't bound by the Constitution to vote for their pledged candidate. So it is an interesting fact that some unbound delegates do count way more than your average voter. Now, another point that Donald Trump taps into that's pretty interesting is that about a week before the RNC convention, there's a rules committee that decides how the convention will go. Now, that's going to end up deciding which will help or hurt Donald Trump versus Ted Cruz. So whatever rules they come up with technically I wouldn't call it rigged, but I think that's an interesting point that some of these rules aren't the same every single cycle.
And as you were speaking, Cate, we're looking at scenes from last weekend's Colorado State Convention, which takes me now to Shirish Date. Shirish, unpack it for me, your vantage point on this. Rigged, or do political parties as private organizations have the right to tailor their rules prior to the convention?
Well, as you say, they are private political parties, so they are allowed to rig their system however they choose to do so, right? Now, having said that, both parties, since Watergate, have gone out of their way to say, well, look, we're going to democratize this, with democracy with a small d, and we're going to have the voters choose our nominee. More so on the Republican side even than the Democratic side, who have those, by rule, those superdelegates, the members of Congress, etc. So, yeah, Donald Trump is right. The system is rigged, but it's not like a secret rigging. He could have known about this. He should have known about this. And frankly, it seems as though it was only about a month ago that they thought, maybe we really need to pay attention to who gets picked as delegates, because we're not going to walk in with 1,400 or 1,500 delegates like I think they originally believed. So I think that's what's happening here. It's kind of after the fact thinking that, maybe we need to pay more attention than we thought to the delegates from these smaller caucus states.
Focus now on South Florida. It was officially announced today by Palm Beach County State Attorney Dave Ehrenberg that Donald Trump's campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, would not be facing criminal charges for battery. Cate, what does the community of journalists in Washington think of this decision?
So I think what strikes me most about the video is the fact that we see Secret Service standing off to the side and not interfering, and it's Corey Lewandowski who is pushing Michelle Fields. Now, Donald Trump has been saying that, hey, Corey Lewandowski was protecting me, but if it was an issue of protection, it's interesting to me that Secret Service was not the ones interfering. Now, I think where it comes in, the interesting point is that TMZ just released a video showing that Michelle Fields was actually in an area where Secret Service told her not to be. So that's where it gets a little bit fuzzy. But usually these cases shouldn't have to go to court, and that's the feeling that I'm hearing, that it's simple battery, that these are usually decided by an apology and something out of court. So it does not surprising to me that it's not going to court, but I think that's interesting how the Trump campaign is reacting to this, and so far, judging on the statement they just sent out, didn't apologize for it and just said that, hey, this is concluded and we're happy to see that Corey Lewandowski will not be charged.
We got about a minute left, and SV, I know your beat is the White House, but certainly you've heard that up on the Hill at the Capitol Hill Club, Donald Trump was sitting down with some members of Congress. Can Trump close the deal and bring more elected office holders into his fold with endorsements before the July convention?
Well, actually, I think it was his campaign that was sitting down with some of the folks on the Hill today. And can he get more endorsements? Well, I guess it depends on how well he does, right? People want to go with a winner. And if it looks like it's not going to be known who will win the nomination before we head into Cleveland, I think you'll see a lot of congressmen kind of holding back and not wanting to put their necks out and only to see the other guy win. So in the end, I don't think endorsements matter all of that too much. Actual voters don't really pay attention to, who's my local congressman going to support? I don't think people think that way. In terms of the institutional backing, well, Trump has said over and over he doesn't care about that. The system's rigged. They're out to get him. So he should be happy, I guess, that he doesn't get many endorsements, because that's probably what's going to happen. He's not going to get many until he nails this thing down.
Yep, and we will see what happens in less than a week, 5 days in New York. For the perspective from Washington, D.C., Cate Martel and SV Date, you have our thanks. So you heard what the journalists had to say. I'm interested in your take. Why don't you send your comments to me at newsmaxtv.com/comments. You can also use Twitter, where our handle is @Newsmax Prime. Up next with former Governor John Sununu, so stay with us.